Welcome back to the podcast. My name is Joseph Clough, and this is episode 845. And today we are doing a Q&A, which is being live streamed on youtube.com/Joseph Clough. So we kind of asked some questions before the stream, went on to loads of different crazy, weird, wonderful subjects. That's what we do in the pre-show. But we're going to get into today's questions, which were posted one before the stream, and also those in the pre-chat. So let's get to them right now. In fact, I'm going to get to the one which was posted to me beforehand. So there's a question which says, you've mentioned before about when and why hypnosis may not work. Have you ever worked with anyone who was able to let go of their issue with hypnosis only to years later, say 2, 5, or 10 years, have this issue resurface? If so, what would it be that was believed to be the core issue wasn't, and in fact the core issue possibly meaning or being something else? Does that make sense? Probably not how I read it, but you wrote it down perfectly. So there's going to be a couple of reasons as to why issues resurface, or if there's something deeper. So let's go with the first one first. For example, when I do my work with my clients or people within my program, we work only on the hidden root cause. So mostly people, and I would say even some other hypnotherapists, because they usually treat what the client comes in through the door, like what they feel the most, what they experience the most, what's kind of coming up in their life. But to me, they're just signals to go deeper to what the real issue is that once solved will solve all the symptoms. That's how I operate. So sometimes the core issue isn't being addressed. We think it is the core issue, but ultimately it's not the core issue. It feels like it, but it won't necessarily be it. Which kind of answers the latter part. So let's go back to the first one, and that is, issues will come back if a big event happens which makes the unconscious mind feel unsafe. So let's just say, for example, someone had a phobia of, let's kind of keep it nice and light. Let's say they had a phobia of a spider, and the hypnotist did the work to let go of it, and it's all good. They're good around seeing spiders here, there, and everywhere. But then they go on like some kind of crazy safari, and they go to a place which these spiders are bigger, or there's more of them. Then the unconscious mind might go, oh, I should be fearful of this, even though they're not maybe dangerous at all. So sometimes a bigger event can regress the unconscious mind back to the problem and its symptoms. But a competent hypnotist is there to be able to make sure they find that real hidden root cause, because it's usually another layer or two beneath what we think it is. That once we provide the solution, which is safer, the unconscious mind won't go back. Another example would be if, for example, a client has a issue with relationships, and when they go to see the person, or they're listening to a track like Get Over the Ex or any other track about relationships, and before they had a narcissistic attraction, like they would attract narcissists into their life. Once you do the work, you're meant to be able to go, well, actually, I'm worthy and deserving and enough, and therefore your unconscious mind kind of pushes those other people away. I'm not worthy may have attracted a narcissistic person. But when you go worthy and am worthy and enough and deserving of more, then the unconscious mind knows what not to look for, and therefore kind of repels those people. So that's where the issue won't come back. You won't even put yourself in that situation. So ultimately, not everyone works on the real root cause. They think it's a root cause, but it's something deeper. The other part was that Maybe there's a big issue, like a new big event, which can trigger a little bit to bring back the fear or the issue. But ultimately, if you do the real good work, the real unconscious root cause, you'll be more protected. After all, the only reason why we have issues is because the unconscious mind is trying to protect you, like that phobia, like anxiety, even when it comes to like the narcissistic person we attract, there's intentions behind why it does it. And it's always going to be a safety or protective mechanism beneath the surface. Not the root cause, but just like what it's trying to do. So what our goal is to be able to give the unconscious mind a safer protective mechanism. So therefore it can't fall back. I see it like upgrading your device or your computer, your mobile phone. It should update it with the latest software so it doesn't need to be vulnerable to other things where like bugs or viruses on a computer and things like that. It's meant to just keep getting safer and safer and safer. So that would be the first question. The next question we have, do you have any hypnosis on just fear? Not fear of something specific. I don't think I do. However, there is a process called negative emotion release, okay? So it's generalized, but you get to choose the emotion that you're working with. So if you go into the app, go to the hypnosis session and type in emotion or negative in the little search bar, that will be the title that I would recommend, because you get to decide the emotion you want to let go of. Because I created that track specifically for the emotion that you're feeling. Once again, is trying to protect you. So I'm getting you to present that into your mind, know that's your intention, and then it will start to let go of that emotion. And that comes in both a day version and a night version. So negative emotion release would be the title, I believe, which would be the best for that. But it's a great also suggestion, because I might be able to record something like that. Another question we have here is, does being relaxed prior to listening to hypnosis deepen it? I would say so. Like, if we go to the extreme level, if you're in a highly agitated, stressful state, it can be harder to be in a state to go into trance quickly or to deepen it. Not that it's not impossible, but the ideal would be to be in that balanced state. You don't want to be in like a real relaxed state, because you might just go too deep and fall asleep within seconds, unless you're doing a nighttime hypnosis. But if you want like more of a conscious awareness, so if you think of it being like a range of emotion from like between 0 and 10, 0 being really relaxed, and 10 being a very highest state, we want it to ideally be in a state which is easier to transition into the learning state. Sometimes, I mean, if you struggle with that sometimes, I like the idea of you preparing to go into trance and kind of like honoring yourself to go, I know in the next 45 minutes or before I go to bed, I'm going to spend like just a few minutes considering why I'm doing this for myself. Like, it's like a little personal ritual that you're taking care of yourself. You're sending out that intention. So before listening to a hypnosis session, I would love everyone to be able to consider how they would like to be, what they would like to experience, how they would like to be different, and why it's important. Like, you're telling, like sometimes I speak to my unconscious mind. I go, look, speaking to my unconscious mind, this is why it's so important. I'm investing time or investing money is so important to me. And it kind of creates a space. Like, you're beginning to go into that place. You're not just jumping into it. You're kind of easing yourself into it. If you think of like going from, I'm sure people have had this experience before, like where it be the ocean, the sea, or a pool. When you jump in and it's freezing, you kind of jars you for a second. What do you have to do sometimes? You kind of go, I mean, some people just get it done, but in this analogy, sometimes you've got to ease yourself in or kind of start at different temperatures before you get there. So I like to be in a relaxed state rather than a highly heightened energy state, it just makes it easier. Got a big question here. What is the meaning of life? Now, it is a tricky one, but if you were to ask what I think it is, which you obviously have, to me, it's just about rearranging the words in that one sentence, which is, what's the meaning of life? And it's really to find meaning out of life. Like, for you to find meaning. And meaning can be in many different things. It could be being very conscious of how you would like to be more mindful, like living more in the moment. It could be your meaning for life is to do a passion or a hobby. Maybe it's to be a mother or a father. Maybe it's many of these things. Like, I find meaning when I do things which lift me up. And that is doing things like this live stream, like all my audios and my program, my group coaching calls, creating custom tracks of people. That to me, it gives me meaning, right? It gives me meaning. So it's hard to be able to answer a question like, what is the meaning of life? Because it's totally unique for the person, in my opinion. I can't just say, well, the meaning of life is to do this one thing, because that one thing is going to be different for other people. So I like to think about it, the meaning of life is trying to find meaning from life. Meaning that allows you to live a more passionate purpose, more loving life, to know who you really are. Maybe our purpose, I mean, this goes a little bit out there, but when I think we come into this world like a blank slate, right? We're just like, totally one. Like, we have no conscious idea of our name. We have no conscious idea or meaning to emotion. In other words, we have no labels. We have no big psychological things happening or big emotional things happening. I mean, being birthed into this world is probably a little bit emotional, right? But in general, it's almost as if you enter blank, you then go through life and you go through different events and emotions. Some are going to be crazy cool, some are going to be very not so cool. Those significant ones we dislike and those that we do like. And sometimes that can make us feel conflicted, like we feel disorganized, we feel like conflicted. A part of me doesn't believe I'm good enough, but a part of me wants to. So sometimes I kind of think we go into this life blank to go through the contrasting experiences, which could be like the darkness or the heaviness, the states that we don't like, in order to then integrate it back into wholeness. Because the first wholeness of beingness didn't have experience. And then as we go through life, we gain these conflicts, but if we learn to grow from them, we integrate back into the wholeness. But the way that we integrate back into wholeness, in my opinion, is to consciously and unconsciously have epiphanies, insights, learnings. So that must mean that you now are whole, but with the learnings, because you've had that contrasting experience to learn and grow from. So sometimes I think if we go general, the meaning of life is to experience life, but to learn and to grow with it back into oneness again. That is like the generalized big goal. But like I said, I think just finding things which lift you up, which gives you purpose, things which are good for self, good for others, and good for the world, I think that creates a life of meaning. I think that's meaningful to you, right? What is it? Meaningful to you. So if you find things which are meaningful to you, which is like maybe being a mother, a father, a CEO of a business, it could be that. It could be being an artist. It could be being a parent to your pet, right? So you can get meaning in so many different things. Maybe the meaning of life is pets because they're so awesome. But that's how I would go about it. So we've got another question here. I listened to the podcast on flexibility in the app. Would you be able to do a hypnosis on that topic? Yes. I almost feel like I have in the free section, So when we're talking about flexibility, we're not talking about the physical flexibility. We're talking about the adaptability. The person or the system with the most flexibility and adaptability controls the situation. That is why we're here today, because we've been able to adapt to our environment over the many hundreds and thousands of years. Some species weren't able to do that. So when we're talking about flexibility, we're talking about the adaptability as well. Behavioral flexibility, behavioral adaptability. So one of the tracks I'd recommend is resiliency. If you type in resilient in the free section, there is a hypnosis session on being resilient, because resiliency allows you to be more resourceful and adaptable in any such situation, right? You're just resilient. You've got the resources, you're adaptable, you've got that self-certainty. So sometimes there's a really good question for other things, because if you search within the app and a title doesn't come up, I'm trying to come up with a solution for this. But let's just say you type in, say, worry, which I'm sure I've got plenty of tracks on worry, but let's just say nothing did come up. Well, type in a word similar to that, like anxiety, and then it'll bring up all these other titles. So if you're struggling to find a topic in the app, maybe just try and think of other words, because it might bring up some other sessions. You go, oh my goodness, that's the one I'm after. So that's what I would suggest there as well. I mean, for example, someone emailed me the other day and they said, do you have any tracks on healing? And I said, yeah, we got one in the main section, a day and night version. We've actually got 2 healing in the free one. But I also said, if you type in immunity, or immune, sorry, there's a free day and night immune booster, because they're talking about like healing from like things like getting better from like cancer and things. Well, immunity or immune booster, sorry, is going to help that situation. So it's a really good question. Thank you for asking, because it means that other people will go, oh, I can type in different words within the app which are similar, and you might get a really good one there, right? So thank you for that question. How to not fall asleep when you're trying to be hypnotized. Okay, so good question. So I'm presuming here this is a question which is not where you're going to bed, right? You're not listening to a sleep hypnosis, a nighttime one, because that's intended to go into trance. If you find that you do actually fall asleep, and I'll cover just another side step here, which is some people think they're asleep, but really they're deep in trance. So how do you discover or decipher the difference? Well, if you awaken from when I'm counting up from 0 to 5, I'd probably put a bet on you are just in a very deep trance, right? Because your unconscious mind is listening to the count up out of trance. Let's just say you fell asleep and missed all that, then yeah, you fell asleep. So then it takes me into a place where I want you to kind of consider the position that you're in. So consider where you were listening to it. Maybe you were listening to it in the day, but you were listening it in bed, right? You just lay down in bed. Well, what is your mind associated to when you're laying in bed? Well, going to sleep, right? So maybe your unconscious mind is remembering that. So consider where you're listening to the track, because it might bring up things. But it also goes into, well, if the location's not in like the bed, which is like associated to sleep, but it still happens, well, maybe you're lying down, which is also associated to sleep. So what I would do is kind of get in a more upright position. You don't have to stand or anything like that, although you can go into trance while standing. But if you are in a more upright position, even if you're not leaning back to anything, you may actually notice that you will not fall asleep. So notice the location. Well, number one, notice if you are really asleep, if you came out of trance on the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, a chance you're in a deep state of hypnosis and not sleep. But if you want to just be more aware of a session, change your position or change your environment. Not listening to it on a bed, listening to it maybe on a seat, couch, in a more upright position. That's probably going to be the best way to do so. Can hypnosis help people get into a flow state more easily? To me, 100% yes. Could be a good title for me to create, but absolutely yes. Because if we think of what flow state is, it's conscious and unconscious, or you could say subconscious, as one. So there is a process for this, and it comes from Huna, and it's from the Kahunas, and like it's a Hawaiian process. So they call it Hakalau, but it's technically peripheral vision. You see, we live in a world where we're very like this focal kind of state, like the horse with the blinkers on. Very, very consciously focused. Well, to get yourself in a more flow state, what you go ahead and do is this. You go ahead and gaze out in front of you, and then you gaze up, like not putting your head up, like keeping your chin where it is, but looking straight ahead, but allow your eyes to gaze up. And then notice your peripheral vision begin to expand. I'm always in that state of this peripheral vision whenever I'm speaking, whenever I'm teaching, because it allows me to not get negative energies, it allows me to radiate out, all of those things. So you can practice this. You can look straight ahead, then gaze up, keeping your head straight, and allow your peripheral vision to expand. It takes maybe a few seconds to a few minutes. Once you notice things in your peripheral vision, like in your environment, you may even put your hands out in front of you a little bit, and so they're out wide and you can see your fingers kind of moving, then you know that you're there. And then you slowly allow yourself to gaze down, only at the rate you keep that peripheral vision. That is a good flow state to be in, because now you're absorbing all the information which is beyond the foveal vision, because now you're in this peripheral vision. And it's not like you don't go there anyway. Like when you're driving, you are usually in this trance state, right? You can get to a place and you don't know how you got there. I mean, you weren't consciously aware, but also you can be aware of things in your environment. Well, the chances are you are, like if there's a car getting close or too close behind you, you have that sense. And that is peripheral vision. And many people go there doing certain sports, even meditative states and all those kind of things. But yes, it's peripheral vision to me. So you can just practice that consciously, and that's going to get you in a flow state. It gets the conscious and the unconscious activated right there. But it's a good title that I will have a little think about. Okay, so let's keep going. How can one stay aligned with their purpose and not be distracted by life? Well, I like to think is you got to make your purpose bigger than your distractions. You got to think about it like that, like a weighing scales. Is my attention on the distraction because it's bigger, right? Because it's there, or is my purpose not big enough? And by the way, when I'm saying like purpose not big enough, it's not saying like you've got to do more. You've just got to look at more of the reasons why you're doing your purpose. Because that means you're keeping the purpose, but you're enlarging it by understanding all the reasons as to why you're doing it. That means you'll go, I don't care about that distraction because this is so much bigger. This is so much more important. I'm going to push through the pain. I'm going to push through the distraction because this is more of value to me. Because that's what it really goes down to. What is important? What is of value? If there's a value to the, let's just take it in a different subject, is there's more value to be sedated by going to social media because it's a quick fix for being able to change your state, like just scrolling or going to watch a movie and things. Not that they're necessarily bad, but I want the person to go, not to be sedated by things like that and like as escapism, to have more value in the thing they want to change. I always want people to come up with as many reasons as to why they want to change, because that should leverage the unconscious mind to go, this is why it's important. So that's what I would do. Keep on building in the reasons why it is so important. That means you're not distracted by life's problems because you're more purposeful in the solution and the reasons for getting there. Okay, so let's go for this one. If hypnosis is about reaching to the unconscious mind, why do some professionals say that not everyone is hypnotizable? So I say there's a couple of reasons when people are not hypnotizable. One, you have free will, right? So you got to want to go into trance. And to want to go into trance, there should be really a reason. Once again, like the previous question, having purpose, having a reason for doing these things. So you got to have that desire to go into trance. And that entails you must also follow instructions. Like if you're not following instructions, like if I say, go ahead and put your attention here, or consider this, or do this, and all those things, well, that just means you haven't got enough value to listen. So people who don't listen and follow instructions don't go into trance because they're just focusing on something else. So that's why it can be a little bit tricky with children. If like they're going and seeing a psychologist who does hypnosis, well, the child has to want to be there, and they got to be like willing to follow instructions. And that's where the hypnotist, psychologist will be more playful in like being less technical and more kind of playful in the experience of resolving something, making it more symbolic, even through metaphors and stories and analogies for transformation, because metaphors work in trance. The other aspect as to when or why people do not get hypnotized, that also could be some cognitive thing. So for example, if there is, say, brain damage or anything like that, maybe there are issues there because they're not getting all the information. They're not receiving it, processing it in that way. So that could be another one as well. But you kind of hear like just these things like when people are in comas, you can say things, it's meant to be good, right? It's meant to, because the unconscious mind's always listening, it's always there. So not to say that they cannot or be hypnotized, but ideally you want them to be able to go, okay, I'm here to let go of this issue, I'm invested in letting it go, I know why I want to let go of it, and I'm going to be willing to follow your instructions. Because ultimately hypnosis is not a do-to process, it's a do-with process. It's a cooperative flow of energy. When those values are there and you want to go into trance, then you will go into trance, in my opinion. Sometimes people think they're not in trance because it's not always a totally different state from the conscious state. We have all these expectations. Hypnosis is like stage hypnosis, and you go 3, 2, 1, sleep, you're in a trance. And stage hypnosis is all real. I've done a training on it. So, but that expectation of what they see or what you think of a stage hypnotist makes you think, oh my goodness, they're out for the count, where really they're not. It's just a dramatic way, and especially with the things you don't see of the pre-teaching of the hypnosis, that the person or participant, the hypnotee on stage, has gone in and out of trance 50 times probably before they're even on the stage, right? Because they've been taught to get to that state really quick. The more things you do over time, the quicker you do it, right? It's easier to do. So the stage hypnotist in that case goes in and out of trance, in and out of trance, in and out of trance. So it's really quick and easy to produce that kind of phenomenon on stage hypnosis. So sometimes about our expectations. So next question, why is it that some days there's more resistance to going under? And that could be going about having that time and that honor, that kind of safety, or not the safety, but that setting the intention, easing into it. That could be answering like the same kind of question. And once again, we've got to have that desire. Sometimes what I like to think about it is, sometimes don't do it. Like if you can do something which is really good for you all the time, and you can still go, I'm a bit bored of that. Like after a while, you can get a little bit bored. So, or not bored, that's the wrong word. You can get a little bit like it's a chore. Well, we don't really want that. So maybe just break it up. Maybe go, well, today I'm not going to do it. I'm going to make sure I do it tomorrow night to keep it interesting, to keep it fresh. So that could be an idea as well. And maybe like I said, getting yourself in a place where you really want to ease your way into it. Have that like preparation and intention. What can be addressed to help someone with their confidence for starting a new relationship? Well, that would entail there is a lack of confidence, and a lack of confidence is a state, right? There's a lack of a feeling, and the reason why we have a lack of a feeling is because we have a lack of belief, right? Because confidence is tied to our belief. So I would be looking into not the lack of confidence, I'd be looking into what is the belief system which creates the feeling. And also, if it's a new relationship, maybe the previous relationships weren't so good, or they had some negative consequences which you're kind of bringing into this expectation, not consciously, but maybe unconsciously. Let's say, for example, the person got cheated on. You might have a lack of confidence and insecurity going into the next one, thinking, what if this happens again? So undoing those thoughts and those beliefs, first of all, will then give the confidence and the certainty and all those things, and get the unconscious learnings to know maybe the difference between who to trust and who not to trust. So I'll be looking into what is, once again, that core issue belief that once solved will actually give you the undeniable self-certainty. I got a great question here. What makes a good hypnotist? Well, a couple of things in my opinion. First starts with intention. Like, I got into hypnosis from my own issue of blushing, anxiety, not believing I was worthy, deserving, and good enough. If imposter syndrome was even a term back then, I would have definitely identified with being and feeling like I was going to get found out, or what if I get rejected? So sometimes being a good hypnotist, a lot of them had an issue. Well, some of them are still working through their issues, of course. But for me, I kind of fell into this and I was like, oh my goodness, I want to help as many people as possible to get rid of these conflicts. So that, to me, what makes a good hypnotist, because going back to that other great question about what is the meaning of life, or to find meaning out of life, well, to me, that gave me a meaning. It gave me a purpose. And if you do anything with purpose, you tend to show up more. You tend to be more passionate and more self-certain in delivering that. And being a hypnotist is about being a good communicator. Well, if you don't have the confidence or the lack of self-certainty, well, you're not being a good hypnotist. Like, the person with the most self-certainty usually wins the conversation. So if you're very passionate about it and you become very certain in what you're doing, and the other thing is, which I think is so important, is not only that you feel passionate about helping someone, but when you work with that person, you got to see their magnificence. You see, whenever I'm doing these live streams, or I'm doing my podcast before I even did these live streams, I would be imagining speaking with you, and I'm really trying to talk to you and like get you to see how amazing you are. That's just my belief system. Like, I don't see you as a problem. I don't see you as a conflict. I don't see you as a depressed person or a stressed person or a phobic person. I just see someone who's got a strategy which isn't working, a core issue. Going back to that analogy of the meaning again of like being a blank slate, you are just one. And if we overcome this, you'll be one again with all those learnings. Now, if I see every person like that, then I'm going to do whatever it takes. People aren't broken. They just don't know how to get over something. The brokenness is not an issue. It feels like it is, but it's not the truth. So I like to see everyone as absolutely amazing, perfection, even in the imperfection, to be able to go, that in my opinion, there's just me, that they are pure love. That's how I like to see it for me personally. I know not everyone will resonate with that, but that's how I see it. So if I see you as being magnificent, and I know I'm so purposeful and passionate about it, then how could it not work? Right? Because you can't not work when that happens. But of course, if you're going to go into the finer details of that, you've also got to be able to help people And that means you got to learn other things other than hypnosis, like business. Like, to be a good hypnotist, you got to be able to get the right marketing and customers and all those kind of things. You'll be the greatest hypnotist in the world, but if you're not able to get yourself out there with the right strategies, like when we train people up to be hypnotists, we give them the business strategy, because I've invested many hundreds of thousands in business to learn this. So I'd like to give people a shortcut, a bit like when they're working with their issues of not the imposter syndrome. Why spend all the time I did trying to find it out when you can just work with me and I'll just solve it with you, because I know how to get there the shortcut way. I've done all the wrong ways of getting there for all those years, and now I know, okay, this is the right way. So that also means that would allow you to be an even better hypnotist, because you're actually now helping more people. Now, those were the questions that I had on the pre-show. So I'm going back onto the live questions, and I'm just going to see if there are any more very quickly before we end this stream. So I think we're all good right now. Okay, so yeah, I think that's all good from what I can see. So we'll go from that. So I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you haven't got it right now, go ahead and get it right now. It is the free hypnosis app at freehypnosis.app. There are over 800 episodes, hundreds of hypnosis sessions for free. If you download it, I give you free access to the whole app as well. Obviously, just so you can test it out, where you can heart them. So that means they'll go straight to the top of the playlist. We've got something really cool coming out soon, which I won't say because it'll probably be out when this goes out to the podcast. But there's going to be I'm just pretty much saying it. There's going to be a whole new profile situation where it'll be like a quick access to your favorite tracks. But you can create custom tracks, you can put them on repeat, you get to transform in the day, get to transform in the night. You get all the 4-hour sleep sessions, which I want to create many more of, like negative emotion release, or I want to do a 4-hour healing one. It takes a lot of time, so please be a member of the app, and that means you're supporting it. Otherwise, I'm running my own business on my main business rather than the app and so on. And on top of that, we've got like light mode, dark mode, we've got create your own playlist, morning meditations, we've got audio programs in there now. We've got a ton of things. And also, if you're getting value from my work, please go ahead and leave a review. You can do it in the app. When you open the app, you go ahead to the main part, scroll down. If you don't see it, you can scroll down, and it just says like, leave a review. Your words help. They honestly do. Most people look at reviews before they buy on Amazon. They look on reviews before they download an app. When you go to a restaurant, researching restaurants now, you look for the reviews. Same thing for the app. When you write words of how my work has helped you, you're helping so many more people. That's what I'm so passionate about. I want to help as many people, even if they just listen to all the free work. I don't mind paying for all that. I don't mind keep doing all of those things. From the live stream and then putting it on the podcast. Like, I don't mind doing all of that for free if people want to just use the free stuff. So even if you just write a great free section, that will make the difference. So many people have emailed saying they looked at a review, took the gamble on it, and it then made them make a huge change in their life. And I mean big, huge changes, where like being in this world kind of changes, all because someone wrote a review. So if you can join me with that mission in mind, if you've got value, to leave a review within the app, we can make those ripples far and wide. So I hope you got value from this free episode, and I look forward to speaking to you on a future one. And remember, if you're a member of the app, you're now getting brand new bonus sleep sessions every single week so far, okay? So watch out for those. They're coming out. We've got some in the pipeline for you, and I look forward to speaking to you on a future episode. Many thanks, and by the way, I appreciate you all. Thank you so much. Many thanks, and goodbye.